All right, so first thing I want to mention is that I got the impression when you were doing the Bach of a linearity. You are rather than being a suite, you see this as one big piece in sections that you feel are necessary to connect together to show the flow. I found that an interesting approach to a piece that's very often chopped up into its individual movements. Mm-hmm. Is that just something you do, or is it a considered idea?
Both intuitive and actually thinking about it. Because if you actually see the scores, you at least read a little bit. I'm not an expert either. I'm not a musicologist. But just digging a little bit around, you can see that the form Partita itself, it's born as something that is chopped up, as the name says. Partita means cut in pieces. But still, he always puts these pieces together in a very specific order. And he never puts one in the front and one after. He always puts them in the sort of same order in the partitas. And it's very interesting, and I really think that they should be very interconnected. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could go as far as Glenn Gould to just actually start putting the metronomes and connecting them together with the metronome. It's actually possible.
Well, I think you do have to, though.
But there is a flow, there is a groove going between them.
Be aware of the dance elements and what those dances mean.
And the interconnector.
But I thought you did a good job of connecting them, really good job, of connecting them together and turning it into a piece instead of a group of pieces. Which I personally like, because I don't like when it sounds chopped up.
Actually, what's the point of playing a piece like this if you don't put it together, you know, it's just...
That brings up the question of what is the point of playing pieces that have been played 1,000 times before? Fair question, right?
It's a fair question. I don't have the answer.
You don't have an answer. Neither does anybody else.
But everybody here is here to listen to this music, so they must know better than me, you know?
I mean, the problem, of course, it's also a programming problem, because where do you put, let's say, I mean, everybody says, oh, you got to start the program with Bach. Mm-hmm. This is nonsense.
This is nonsense. I did it, but it's nonsense. So.
You did it, but that doesn't mean it's not a rule.
It's not a rule, no.
I mean, I've been to concerts where Bach has ended the concert.
I like to do that, actually. Yeah. Whenever I can, start, for example, the first half with Bach and end with Bach.
Right.
Whatever goes in the middle, who knows?
All right, so let's talk about the good old Liszt Sonata.
Yes.
So the thing about the Liszt Sonata, and there I got exactly the opposite impression, that you were trying to highlight the differences in the piece. Now, anybody who knows anything about the piece knows that it's based on 3 motives. Would you demonstrate the motives for us?
Basically. And then whatever form he takes.
Right.
The third one,
well, I personally think the third one is the opening scale, the descending scale.
You could think about, yeah.
Because this occurs so often in the piece, even in the background. So, first of all, programming the Liszt Sonata. Mm-hmm. What do you think about when you program a piece? Do you want to be different? Do you have ideas of performances in your head that you admire? Do you want to emulate them? Do you want to completely do it the way you feel it at the moment? What's the right answer to that question?
You know, the right answer, again, I don't know the right answer, because everybody has a right answer, you know, and they fight for it so hard.
But if everybody has the right answer, that means they're all wrong.
Exactly. My answer is, if somebody sits in the audience, wherever in the world, and they sit down and they start wondering and they start forgetting that I'm playing the piece, then I did my job. You know? If they forget that I am the person here, oh, Martin Garcia, he played that piece yesterday, so nice. No, wrong. I did a wrong job, you know. Tomorrow I want people to wake up in the morning and thinking, wait, what the hell is that piece that he played? What is that? I've never heard it before, you know. The point that the information sits inside of the piece, of course it's impossible to gather how Liszt played, and we have no way of knowing that, but you can gather a good amount of information from the score, really. I don't know what is the right answer, but when I go to the score and I dig and I dig and I start digging and I start digging, I end up with something that I am convinced that it's not what I feel, it's what was written by Liszt. When I reach that conclusion, I say, okay, I'm happy, and I'm never happy. what can I do? But that's what I aim for. That's the idea.
How
especially
long have
with
you
these
been
pieces.
playing it?
In concert?
Well, when did you learn it? Let's start with that. When you were 3, 4?
No, this especially this piece or huge pieces like Rachmaninoff Third Concerto or something like that. You know, I never put it like I learned it 1 year ago. You know, I spent
The Liszt Sonata, you mean?
The Liszt Sonata
Rachmaninoff.
is something like 1 year ago or something like that. But I never played in concert. It's actually my first time in concert.
This is the first time you ever played. You people are lucky. 50 years from now, you're going to be able to say, I heard Martin Garcia Garcia played Liszt Sonata for the first time on August 7th, 2022. I mean, it would remind me of what it would be like to have heard Horowitz play the Liszt Sonata for the first time.
Oh my.
Which was probably around 1920 in a practice room at the Moscow concert or Kiev or whatever.
With more important people in that room than in the audience the next day, you know. So.
For sure. But actually, now that you've gotten over that hump of playing it for the first time,
It is a hump.
well, that's what I'm saying is that it can only improve.
Yes.
Not that there was anything wrong with it, but what I'm saying is that I don't mean improve in terms of execution. I mean you will probably, presumably, mature, get more ideas, get different ideas, different ways to connect it, different things to highlight. I feel like this piece has 10,000 decisions you have to make before you sit down and play it.
And you have to make the decision. You cannot leave it to anybody else because you have to make it because then it doesn't sound convincing at all.
So have you had teachers try to tell you how to play it that you didn't agree with?
Look, I can say I have had teachers, and everybody who has ever played the piano has had teachers who tell them how to play it, and they disagree at some point. So,
you mean not immediately, but at some point?
At some point, yeah. You always have to process the information. They say it, even if you strongly disagree, they always say it because of a reason. They have a reason to do it. Maybe it's the wrong reason, but you can find the reason and take it with yourself. Always.
It always fascinates me that somebody's willing to tackle this Apollo of the piano literature that has been done so many times by so many different pianists in so many different ways, and how to personalize it, how to make it yours. That's something that relatively few pianists. You know, if you think, let's say, think back to history, who are the great Liszt Sonata pianists, and certain names come to mind, which hopefully you'll join that list.
Not to me to decide that.
No, but you know.
Who knows?
So let's talk about second half because we'll be doing Q&A
Yes.
afterwards. So pepper us with questions after. But
Whoever wants to stay and
second half,
questions.
I will reiterate, Martin is not playing Chopin. So you're doing.
Somebody is very keen for me to play Chopin.
So by the way, I haven't looked at the program for 3 days, but I think you're doing the first 3 Transcendental etudes,
Yeah,
a
they're
Borden
somewhere there.
source, what's Solizio?
Not a Borden
Not the
source,
Borden
but-
source.
No, I just
Solizio?
Cloche de Genève.
Oh, Cloche, yeah, and then 2 pieces of Albéniz
Yes,
from Iberia.
from Iberia.
Let's talk about Iberia.
Let's talk about
Your
Iberia.
home country.
Yes.
I don't want to talk about Liszt. I talk about Liszt too much already.
Yes, Iberia probably more.
But let's talk about Iberia. So these 12 pieces are considered by many to be the pinnacle of Spanish piano music. You feel that? You agree with that?
I would say the pinnacle. Okay, not Spanish piano music for sure, but for sure. Maybe Granados can be up there, but
With Goyeski.
exactly. But yeah, probably Iberia. But for the whole piano literature, they're one of the most interesting pieces of music ever written for the piano. Even Messiaen said it to anybody who met in the street. He said, like, you know, if you can take one of these pieces, tear them apart and understand every single note, then I give you the check and you can go out of my class, you know, composition. So that was the checklist. Like, if you can analyze this and tell me what it is, every single note, you can leave. You can go. You are ready.
You told me you haven't learned all 12 of them
No,
at this
no.
point, but you're thinking about it.
I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's again like Liszt Sonata, you know. It's like I look at the future. We'll see. We'll see. They have to mature. It's like a good wine. You can rush with it. It's nice.
You know, it's interesting because when people say what are the most difficult ones, which is a ridiculous question since they're all incredibly difficult. Maybe Avocacion's a little bit easier because it's slow.
Because it's slow.
It's just because it's slow, but it's very complicated anyway, very textured. But people say, oh, well, the most difficult is Lava PS or Eritania or whatever, or Triana.
It's up there, yeah.
But I think the most difficult one, because having to sustain it for its length, is Jerez.
That's very difficult, yeah. As a musician.
Yeah,
not as a technical exercise, of course. But as a musician,
it's 11 minutes long or 10 minutes long, and it's very repetitive, and how do you keep the interest going? To me, that is the most difficult in terms of interpretation.
He writes it in there. And that theme goes on and on for 10 minutes. It's actually like this. In the south of Spain, we have something called copla, and it goes. We start singing it, it's like humming, in the bass. It's a bass humming, and then on top of that, people talk, people do something on top. But it's like 10 minutes like this. It's very sad to listen. Actually, it's very, very sad. He uses the white keys and gives this. I don't know, very melancholic, very hot feeling, I don't know, it's a very special piece. Very special piece.
Well, I would look forward to hearing you play that.
I look forward to myself playing that.
but for tonight you're doing Albayacin and
Eritania, yes.
Yeah. So that's book 3, first one, and book 4, last one.
Exactly.
I look forward.
Me too.
We will take a short break.